Gloria Strode, and welcome to Straightforward. Today I am visiting with my friend, the awesome insurance guru, the one and only Gerald Miley. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Ms. Strode.
I know, I had to hold you hostage to do this interview.
You sure did.
Well, you have so much in terms of the experience and knowledge about insurance, and I just want you to share today with our audience why insurance is important, making sure that we have the right amounts. We hear often about the donut holes and things, or we didn't insure enough. So when the property is destroyed or you didn't have the right kind of insurance, then people are just left out in the cold. We have renters that don't buy rental insurance, and then when we have a fire, they want people to make donations. Then on the other side, and we're going to talk about that in segment 2 with Sharon about that life insurance and that GoFundMe thing. We have to fix that. You agree with that?
Got it.
Okay.
Well,
all right. So insurance, why is it important to have insurance on your property, and what types of insurance should you have if you're an owner or a renter?
So first off, you are a homeowner. You need homeowners insurance, and typically what homeowner insurance encompasses the structure itself of the house, content or other structure. Content could be like a utility shed, it could be something other than the house, but it's just a combination to outbuildings, personal properties.
So that's for like my neighbors that have separate, that's not a part of the main house where they have their boats.
Typically it's detached.
Or their skis,
yes,
things, and that stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's detached. Those
Correct.
are outbuildings.
Correct.
Okay, so we have to educate people because sometimes we assume people know and they really don't know.
Well, typically in a homeowner's policy, you have several segments. You have coverage A, typically the structure itself, that's the house itself. Coverage B typically is the outbuildings or things that are detached, and normally it's 10% in most policies. And it kind of varies from coverage to coverage. And coverage C is the content. Coverage D is typically the loss of use, which means if you're displaced by a fire or storm or water, whatever the reason, then that portion of the policy typically is about 20% of the policy face value. And then you have
20% of the policy face value.
Typically, I mean, because you get displaced, I mean, a policy is merely designed to cover what's inside that policy. So if there's only $50,000 of coverage D, which is loss of use coverage typically, then you can only spend up to $50,000. Every policy has a cap. So,
okay, see, every policy has a cap.
Correct.
All right, so I needed to know that.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so make sure that I'm not underinsured.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And typically, coverage E is liability. Liability pertains to someone came to your property, slipped and fell and got hurt, into your property, dog bite them per se, and that's where that coverage comes from. So there's about 5-6 components to make a homeowner's policy as opposed to a rental's policy. Typically on a rental's policy, only thing you're concerned with is inside the shell, because the landlord or property owner has the shell and you just have the content. Things like your clothing,
Your bedroom
furniture, but they also cover to a certain amount. You know, typically we had a fire. We've had several of those this year, apartment fires, and typically you can be affected even if you don't have, if you have rental insurance, and we just say that you still have a 2-story apartment complex, and the person above you has a fire, and the fire department come out and water it down. Well, typically water won't run uphill, and so typically you'll be affected that way. And if that person upstairs has coverage and you don't have coverage, you're merely out.
Really?
So
it's just your bad.
Just your bad.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to circle back to the part about if someone enters your property.
Correct.
And I know I've heard this conversation with some family members about a swimming pool.
Correct.
So when you have a swimming pool in your backyard, you have to make sure you have a fence and all of that. And if somebody comes and slip and fall at the pool, but they're not supposed to be there, how does that work?
Well, typically, especially in Columbus, you have to be permitted to have a fence, and typically it's a 4-foot fence. There's a regulation
by so it's a 4-foot fence?
By city code, you're required to have one in Muscogee County. I'm really not sure about other counties, but I guess Columbus. And typically you have to get somebody permission to come into your pool to get permission to enter your property. You know, if a kid jumps a fence and get hurt, you know, that one of those tough nuances that
Right.
you don't want to face that, because it's kind of one of those
Yeah.
those fill-all as opposed to what the insurance policy would. But typically, in the office about entering your property, they must have your permission to enter your property.
Okay, so that's important to know, because I do know my neighbor across the street has a pool.
Got it.
And, kids now, they're adventurous, I'm just gonna say that. Okay, so we've had a lot of storms. And then when the shingles blow off the roof, or part of the structure, or some people have those freestanding carports.
Correct.
And I've seen some of those with some of the storms we had, because they seem to be coming more often.
Correct.
So what is that?
Well, typically,
Is that a natural act of God? Is that covered by the insurance? Because see, we have a lot of insurance myths.
Typically on an insurance policy, if there's damage caused by a storm, we'll just say if it takes a tree, a perfect example has it often. The tree's on neighbor's fence and the tree falls into your property and damages your structure, which is covered. Well, typically what's required by the insurance company to do, that guy that cuts his fence, cut the tree off, what's left is your side of the fence, that's your property, he can't go on it. By law, primarily you're responsible on your side, he's responsible on his side. So if the person that has the tree and it falls on your property and does damage, typically your own insurance has to cover that. Hypothetically, if that person don't have insurance coverage and your tree falls, you're kind of out. But if you
now you could tell I'm not happy with that, right?
Well,
no, really, because we had 7 trees removed from our yard because they were old trees, very big trees. And as you know, that's very expensive, because you got to pay for the trees, then you got to pay for the roots or the stumps or whatever that is.
Right.
But it's not going to be okay, and we got a lot of retired military people in our community. If their fence, their tree fall over my fence, then I won't be happy. But since you told me, then I'm more informed.
Well, typically what happens though, if you ever in fear of a tree that's primarily a dead tree and it's hanging on your property, what I would do is I would write the neighbor a note and send it certified mail and correspondence. I said, and listen, I want to address it to you and just let you know if this tree could pose a bodily injury to my property, even to myself, liability. And once you put them on notice, typically, then the insurance companies will give you a whole lot less fight about it. But most of the time people just say, well, the tree's dead, they don't do anything about it. But you have to make it a legal tenure by sending them certified mail.
Documentation, this conversation every time. Okay, what we're going to do is go to our break to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Straightforward is brought to you by State Senator Ed Harbison, serving the citizens of Georgia's 15th Senatorial District and on the front lines for veterans every day. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided. A touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road, trusted by generations. The Columbus Memory Center, 7196 North Lake Drive, Suite A, Columbus. Dr. Jonathan Liss is a board-certified neurologist and sleep specialist committed to battling Alzheimer's by preserving independence, offering you the opportunity to get your memory number for free, the only vital sign for brain health. Call today at 706-327-4000 or visit columbusmemorycenter.com. And welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing this very important conversation about insurance with Sharon, and we're here at the Miley Agency, where all of the experts are, and you all know what people need. You know how to help them find and get it at an affordable price.
Absolutely.
Well, I know you are well-traveled, and thank your husband for his service. You all are an awesome military couple, and we're going to talk about why you live on the other side of the bridge at another time. But you are an expert in life insurance. I know you're aware we have too many times where we have these GoFundMes. I've had people in my family to have them. I'm sure you know people that have had them because people failed to plan. Death is no respect of person. It's for the old and the young. There are long graves and there are short graves.
This is true.
So today I just want you to share the wisdom of why people need to have life insurance. My child is 39 and I still have life insurance on him, and I'm going to keep it because I've had it since he was a child. And I think that's important. So while we're buying all of these expensive iPhones, expensive sneakers, designer bags, I'm not hating on that, but make sure you have your basic needs met.
Absolutely.
And then life insurance is one of those. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. And let me commend you on keeping that life insurance for your child, because the thing of it is life insurance is based on that person's age and their health. So the amount of coverage that your child has, he will never get that amount of coverage at that
price ever again.
Absolutely,
right?
Because he was as healthy as he was going to be during
right
that time.
as a little boy.
So that's very important that we keep in our back, in our mind.
Right.
That health is important.
Yes.
Yes. And with life insurance, it's very important that we have that, so that, God forbid, when that time comes, we are not leaving that burden on our family.
And it's expensive.
It's very
Funerals
expensive.
are very expensive.
Very much
If
so.
you want one, by the time you pay for the coffin, the fees from the funeral home, the cars, the graves, the vaults, the headstones.
Yes.
And if you've never done that, you don't understand that you need some money.
This is true.
Right. And then even with the cremation, you need money for that. It's not cheap.
It is
So you recommend people get it when they're young.
as young as you can get it. And when that baby comes out and they get that social security number, that is the time. Let's get it done then.
Okay.
Because you never know what could transpire or happen to that little infant 2 or 3 months down the road.
Well, even babies.
But
We see with the
absolutely.
Miracle Network, sometimes they have life-threatening diseases or other things happen, and then later in life, I do know this from being a social worker in my other life, people that have a history of substance abuse, sometimes they had a difficult time getting some coverage. But you still gotta do what you gotta do at the end of the journey.
Absolutely.
So what's reasonable when you have your child, where it's gonna fit budgets? Because that's something that, and I know now because they've been doing it for me, they take it from your checking account.
Correct.
They want that automatic draft, and that's a good thing. But what should people be planning, even if they can't afford, say, a $2 million policy, probably like what you have, but they can at least start with something, 50 or 60.
Yes.
How does that work?
At least start with something. What you want to do is take into account, like you were just mentioning, all of the different fees that are going to come along with a funeral. At least get enough to where, again, you're not causing a burden on your family. You want to make sure that you have enough to place that person in the ground comfortably for yourself, and that you're not insurance poor, basically.
Right, where the policy is so big you can't afford to
it.
keep it, and when they do the automatic draft from your account, you won't be overdrawn and that kind of thing.
And the auto drafts they're great to have, out of sight, out of mind. It's covered. So I would say, just one rule of thumb, let me just say this, is typically if that person or that family, that breadwinner is not struggling, we typically say, hey, let's look at everything. Let's look at the whole big picture. We want to, rule of thumb, maybe go 10 times, 12 times your salary, especially if you are the breadwinner, because God forbid if the breadwinner experiences one of the 3 Ds, and that's death or disability or even downsizing. You don't want to.
The 3 Ds, I like that. Say that again.
Death, disability, or downsizing.
Oh, I learned something. I like to learn something. No, I like that.
Absolutely. So you don't want to, one, God forbid, the breadwinner dies. You don't want the parent that's left behind to have to worry about struggling with the children, having to uproot them from their home, moving them to another school zone location. Those things are important. So we want to make sure that we keep those things in the back of our mind or in the front of our mind, because we never know when that moment's going to come.
Well, I can agree with you on that, because our mother died very young, and my father never remarried, lived to be 92 years old. And he just, one day, she had a massive heart attack. He had 4 little girls, went from a 2 income to a 1 income, and we moved from where we had known as home to somewhere else. So I can speak to that.
Yes.
And so we really need to be forward thinking and not, as young people, think that they're gonna live forever. It's not gonna happen to me. It happens to our young kids when they're driving cars, You know, anything can happen.
Anything.
It's not always, you know, just a street violent crime. We do have young people that have diseases,
This is
you
true.
know, leukemia and sickle cell and things like that. So you're saying as soon as they're born and get that social, we need to get that life
We need to get that
insurance.
life insurance coverage for them. Start out with something small that you can afford, and as time goes on and things change and we need to increase that, that's not a problem. We can go and we can add additional coverage for that child or for yourself. You know, you have another child, you never know what things are going to take place in life. Life changes, right?
Right.
So does your policy.
Right. And the best advice I ever got when my cousin has passed away, when my son was young, he said, he's a boy. You should get the accidental part. It was good advice. You know, pray, you know, God forbid, we don't want that to happen. But you know, we know boys, their car insurance costs more and everything costs more.
Absolutely.
So that's why
yes, we want to make sure that we take advantage of all those things, because life insurance today is not like life insurance that our grandparents
oh
had.
Lord, where they had it on the thing hanging on the nail. My grandmother and the gentleman came by and she was saying, oh, the policy man. She didn't even call it life insurance, and she'd have the money tied up in a handkerchief for him. But at least she had life insurance.
At least she had life insurance.
Okay.
And it is so wise that once you get it, make sure that it is something that you can afford, so that you don't have to let it go or let it lapse. Because again, the sooner you get it, the better it is.
All right. Okay. Those, I just love that. Wisdom.
Yes.
And everyone from after hearing that, and you did it so eloquently, and they should be willing to take that sound advice. That's sound advice.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors.
Apple Tax Services for the best in tax preparation. 7413 Whitesville Road, Columbus. Call for your appointment today at 706-243-2590 or 706-243-2595. And remember, an apple a day keeps the audits away. The law offices of Siobhan S. Thomas and Associates, 201 9th Street in Uptown Columbus, 706-350-7232. A veteran-owned law firm dedicated to equal rights and justice for all. Make Siobhan S. Thomas and Associates your first choice for legal services. Visit SiobhanThomas.com. The Miley Agency, 4903 Armour Road. Gerald L. Miley and William Ripsinger have been providing comprehensive reviews and insuring families in Georgia and Alabama for more than 50 years. The Miley Agency will work non-stop to find you the best policy at the best price. You can rest assured that your information is secure, confidential, and protected. Call today at 706-996-2045.
And welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing this great conversation about insurance with all of the brilliant professionals here at the Miley Agency with my great friend, the one and only Gerald Miley. I tell you, you do so much.
Well, thank you.
You do. And I really admire your work ethic. You're a hard worker. You're professional. Sometimes you're a little lot to manage, but we got somebody that can handle that. Ms. Katanga can handle that. But I do like the way that you expect excellence. When anyone visits this agency, you come through the door, everyone here is professional. The facility is beautiful. Everybody is well trained. When you call on the phone, you don't feel some kind of way like, what's going on over there? Because they are really on it. And I know that's because you set the bar real high. And so when did you found this agency?
Oh, wow. We opened the Miley Agency at the end of 2018.
Okay.
We really didn't get started because COVID kind of hit at the beginning of 2019.
Okay.
But we didn't get a good start. We had another location on the other side of Walmer Road.
On this same street,
same
we
street,
have
yes,
two
ma'am.
buildings.
Yes, ma'am.
See, at first I didn't know that. I had a little confusion. And I thought, oh, okay. So we're at the big new building.
Well,
And it's very nice. No, it's nicely appointed, and that's what happens when you work hard
yes, ma'am.
and you provide great service. Then you're able to move and grow. So with your team here, you have every type of insurance under this roof. So this is a one-stop shop, is what you told me.
Yeah, we primarily do home insurance, auto insurance. life insurance. I broke that out with Miss Sharon. That's been a tremendous help for us. We do bonds. We do.
Explain to me bonds.
Well, typically, if a contractor come in and they say, well, they got a performance bond, they're required to have a bond set by the carrier of the company saying that if you don't perform, we can call you bond due, and more or less the insurance policy to cover your work performance.
Okay.
And you have performance bond, and so we sell a lot of those.
No, that's important because we have a lot of new entrepreneurs
Correct.
that are just moving into that field.
Correct.
So we need to let them know that they don't have to go to some of the more traditional, long-standing, been here 30, 40 years. They can come to the Miley Agency
Correct.
and get that same.
Correct.
Okay.
Like I said, if almost of insurance we have it. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's commercial, personal. We service all those needs. And quite frankly, commercial is probably more of a tougher space because there's very limited carriers. Because oftentimes those products have a hefty price tag.
Okay,
Like
so
hospitals.
What about hair salons and barbershops?
Yeah, we
Because if people don't know this, and when they have the massage chairs and that equipment is very expensive.
well we try to.
Is that for if someone is renting in a shopping center?
Well, yeah, primarily if someone has residence, don't typically own the building, we can do just a content policy and liability. But the liability.
So if they don't own the building, because I know some that are in shopping centers.
Correct.
And so they can still insure their business equipment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just like they would do if they lived in a private apartment, their personal.
Correct.
Okay.
But the only difference is, if people don't understand this, if you go to a nail shop and your nails get torn or get hurt,
Right.
that's professional liability. So it's not like it will fall under your building coverage or content coverage. That's total separate policy.
I got you.
And oftentimes people don't have professional liability. So if you get your nails, something happened with your nails
Or your hair washed down the sink. It's too bad.
It's too
No,
bad.
but their equipment they can.
Correct.
And
correct.
like the restaurants.
Correct.
We have a lot of folks that don't own their building.
Correct.
Of course, we know people at Royal, they own that building and Miss Star was there forever.
Correct.
But a lot of them that are opening in the shopping centers and some of the other new places,
Correct.
then they can still get to insure that equipment.
Correct, because oftentimes, primarily it'll happen there's a fire. Well, a storm may come through and snatch your roof off and snatch your equipment and tear it up. Then you'll need content coverage for that. But typically it's in two parts. It's just the content and the general liability. The general liability protect you if the floor was wet and somebody
Okay.
slipped and fell, something unnatural that you didn't cause, then that typically fall on your general liability policy.
Okay, so let me ask you about this. Everything, well, not everything, but a lot of things are based on your credit.
Correct.
I did find out that even when they're renting apartments and things like that, folks are looking at your credit score. Is that will that have an impact when people are buying insurance?
I like not say just credit scores primarily. We look at something called insurance score and indexing, and every company has a different way they look at metrics. So I don't know all the perceived ways. Geico or Progressive or State Farm, everybody uses a different metric. So I'm really not real sure about the metric they use. But typically, you just pay your bills and you won't have any problem.
No, because I do know someone got a divorce.
Correct.
And it ended up not being a good thing.
Correct.
And then because they had been estranged for a long time, and then when they got ready to move over and be independent, their credit didn't allow because they had been asleep at the wheel.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't have what they needed on the credit score, so that was a difficult thing. So I always want to use this show to teach people. So it's good if you're a team, but sometimes you need to make sure, that you doing what you need in case. You follow what I'm saying?
Well, I guess just a rule of thumb. I've always had this saying that you need to always pay your bills. I mean, you go
But
out
see,
and
if
pay.
a lot of the military spouses, which I was not one of those, I was probably one of the unique ones. I came with my own everything when I got married. But a lot of them live in the shadow. And if you've always lived in government property and your husband has been the active duty person and they took care of everything and you didn't make sure, like Muddy Tyler Perry said, check the deeds, your name wasn't on anything, then if you have to make a transition, you don't have your own record of anything.
Well, another caveat my mentor always told me, and he said, Gerald, you need to always inspect what you expect.
I like that. That's good. That's wisdom. Inspect what you expect.
Correct.
Good. That's wisdom. It is. So even someone myself been married over 40 years, I'm gonna always read. Reading is essential. I'm happy I learned how to read at Carver Elementary with the SRA kit. Reading will help you along the way.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you all are here. What are your office hours?
Office is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and on Saturdays with appointments only.
Okay, and so they don't need an appointment Monday through Friday?
Well, typically, you know, it gives them more time to be
Prepared.
prepared.
Because you expect excellence. Now, I've seen you move in this building.
Yes, ma'am.
So anybody half-stepping won't last on this team.
No, ma'am.
And I understand because you're doing what you're supposed to do, and excellence will always speak.
And we also try to, you know, make time for our clients too. So when
Right.
you come in and have a appointment with us, we want to make sure we're on time.
And you don't want them to be rushed.
You don't want to be rushed, and also want to make sure we cover your specific needs, because everybody has a very specific needs.
Okay.
Insurance is totally different than buying something else. Because
Okay.
to get a deep, we try to do a deep dive into the total person.
Right.
What's husband, wife,
It's
family.
customized.
Customized.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, I thank you for supporting the show. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for when the days you're being a good role model. Some days both of us need somebody to coach us. But definitely thank you for your friendship and
Yes, ma'am.
support.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
This has been straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you move on for anything. Until next time, be blessed.
What up, world? What's up, Columbus? Be sure to tune in every Sunday, Straightforward with Gloria Strode, right here on NBC 38.